Hello guys, Sor here, and today I will be doing some GT7 Lapguide. This week's daily B is a recycled combo, which is Sardegna A Reverse with Group 3 and hard tires. And since this is a reverse layout and the fact that it has hard tires, some of you may have found it difficult to navigate around the circuit, be that the unfamiliar lines, the high-speed kinks, and the lack of traction. Therefore, I would want to show you guys on how to excel in this fast-paced track. Let's get into the video. For the car choice, I've chosen the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3. As I've mentioned, this race requires you to use hard tires, meaning there will be less grip compared to the softer compounds in FL cars. FL cars will struggle to put down the power at the exit as a result, and meanwhile the engine is at the back for MR cars, meaning there's weight on the rear axle. This reduces a lot of wheel spin at the exit, and in fact, when this combo was used last year, I was also using the 458. Hence, I chose it this time as well because I'm more familiar with it. I was able to do a 1 minute 40.548, and by the time I was recording, which you can see on the top right corner at around 7 p.m. Hong Kong time on 9th of May, I was ranked at 91st globally. Now, the matters are clearly the MR cars, as you can see even the top 100 are filled with mostly MR cars. But I believe that is just down to personal preferences of all the MRs that are usable, including the RSL, the Huracan, the R8, the RA Evo, the RSL1, the 458, and even the Citroen. And in fact, some players use the FRs too, despite being clearly the worst cars. There is the Genesis X, M6, a GTR, a Vantage V12 by Torreno, and the most crazy one, an Evolution with a sub 40 driven by Hafidi, placing in second in terms of the global leaderboard. So, into the lap guy, as you're approaching turn 1, you need to start turning in when the line starts to diverge. And after turning in, I would like to blimp the throttle once to twice depending on how close you are to the inside curb. Once you have hit the inside curb, you will know that you're safe through turn 1. Continue throttling until you see the opening of the wall here or before the 100-meter spot. That is the breaking point for turn 2. Downshift first and then trail brake while using the outside curb to slow you down and maximize the track width, and then turn in with maximized grip. Be careful of the power oversteer at the exit even though it's an MR, and slowly step on the throttle, again maximizing the track width at the exit. The slight change of the color on the tarmac is your turning point for turn 3. Dip the wheels on the grass for a tiny amount that you won't spin out. You'll be able to get the most out of the king if done correctly, and you can give a little bit of throttle before the apex and throttle out completely once you have hit the apex. You can touch the grass a little bit on the exit and then get back on the curve, but it's possible to not touch the grass at all. Be sure to steer back in time before you get to one and hit the guardrail on the right, and take the inside curve to maximize the track width once again to finish off sector 1. Turn in when the wall ends on your right, and then full brake immediately when you see a straight line or when the blue and orange barrier ends on your left. Maintain the straight line under braking and stay in the middle. Again, downshifting into first gear and only start to throttle after this dotted line, otherwise the car will unsettle and you will get power oversteer. Once again, maximizing the track at the exit and into the back straight. Stay on the inside for both of the flat corners, and if you are lucky enough, you should be able to hit 254 kilometers before the next braking zone. The marshal post on your left will be the braking zone. Full brake once again, and when you have downshifted into third gear, start to trail brake and turn in. Use second gear for extra rotation. You can then flat out after hitting the apex and try to stay away from the grass and the fence as well. If you feel a bit of understeer, you can lift off, but that will cost you a little bit of time. That's why hitting the apex and getting an optimal line is very important in this corner. Right after the marshal post or the 100-meter spot is where you are going to brake. Only brake after you have went past them. Turn in when you have reached the second gear and downshift into first gear for extra rotation. Stay on the inside curb as much as possible for the first corner, and do not throttle too much on the dotted line as it will unsettle your car once again. Continue staying on the left hand side and start to turn in when the grass and gravel meet. If you go this wide, you can safely flat out the corner. The optimal line for the second corner is to avoid going onto the curb, but my line was actually too narrow for the first corner than the optimal line. Hence, I went onto the curb and unsettled the car. It's actually possible to not hit it, and if you do hit it, counter steer or lift off a little bit. Otherwise, you will end up in the Bravo and ruin your entire lap. Continue throttling into the final 3 corners, turn in once the exit curve has ended, and stay flat out into the first corner, then brake a little bit. I throttled a little bit before fully braking at the curb for the second corner, and when the curb starts to straighten up, you need to start braking. It is okay if you don't go to the left hand side to set up the corner because it's actually slower for you to do so. Downshift into first gear and get close to the inside curb as much as possible for the final corner, and use second gear for exit, but be careful of the power oversteer. Use the entire track again at the exit, but remember to avoid hitting the gravel trap and then sprint to the line, and that's a lap. I prefer staying on the left hand side for finishing the hot lap, but I believe it doesn't really matter much on where you are going to finish, but be careful of the pit wall if you do so. Here is the full speed lap, and I'll leave some notes for the remaining of the lap. Do not go too wide or 3 wide into turn 1 if you are not confident enough in the race, because it is very dangerous. You both might end up in the fence if not carefully taken. Even though I've seen people pulling moves in turn 1, I still suggest waiting until turn 2 because it is a heavy braking zone and you might be able to get the position done if your opponent brakes earlier than you. It is okay if you can't dip the wheel for turn 3 kink, but you will need to steer less for the corner, and do not panic when you touch the grass on the exit of the corner. Straighten up your wheel and you'll be fine, but if you stay too long on the grass, you might get a track limit penalty. My optimal is actually a 40.225, but sadly I cannot string everything together. I've actually missed some of the apexes and lost a few tenths in this lap. And I think the final corner in Sector 2 and the entire Sector 3 are the hardest parts of the circuit because it consists of mostly transit zone. And I have multiple runs ruined for not taking a good line in these sections. For instance, I missed the apex for the final corner in Sector 2, but the more frustrating part is that I often hit the fence at the exit. It is really annoying to do so, so if you do hit it during your run, it is okay. I understand your frustration. The final corner is actually tricky for me too, because sometimes it's really hard to get it right because the car might unsettle on the braking, losing momentum or causing you to go tight for entry and ruin the exit. Last but not least, my brake balance is -3 for the entire time. This is actually my first time aiming for top 100, which is really tiring for me. As you can see, I've done 30 laps and my personal best came at lap 24. Editing the video is also tedious work too, because this was supposed to be released on Wednesday, but I've only just finished the editing now, which is on Friday. So if you find this video helpful, make sure to drop a like and please share with your GT7 friends and comment down below your thoughts. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one.